All right, three, two, one. How's it going, y'all? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Conflict Management Show. I am one of your co-hosts, the man, the myth, the legend, the awkward, awesome one, Mr. Half Man, Half Amazing, Mr. Malik Miles, and my other co-host. Please introduce yourself.
The future Hall of Famer, the one namer, the Oracle of UFC. It's Edon, and we are back after an extended break and some fight nights that have passed for the big pay per view coming up, UFC 314 in Miami.
Yep, and on top of that, on top of that being also special news, this is our 1 year episode. So a year of posting our show on YouTube. What 25, 26 shows now? 26 shows. I feel like that's awesome. That is an epic thing. Tell me, how do you feel, my friend? How does it feel to be hit the 1 year mark of conflict management?
It feels good. It's I wish I had like a noisemaker or like a streamer or something for it,
Right,
but
a little kazoo thing, just like a.
yeah, it's we'll have to save that for like 100 episodes or maybe the 2 year anniversary.
Yo, that would be epic, right? And then
Yeah,
we could properly be in full suits, have a little,
yeah.
little like a little pacha thing, with the confetti
Oh
falling
yeah, the
down.
little like firework deals.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Who knows? Maybe even to be in a studio at that point. But so going into this, right? There's a
Mhm.
lot of people who are kind of making their main card debut, like as far as yeah, making their main card debut. A lot of people getting their first title opportunities. So hypothetical for you. So let's say you are a fighter, right?
Mhm.
Boom. You are a undefeated prospect who is on the rise. You've headlined fight nights. You've been on the prelims. You've been at the Apex. This is your very first pay-per-view. You're opening the main card. You context. You have a decent fan following so far, right?
Mhm.
Like some of the hardcores know who you are. People who've seen you on the like some of the casuals know who you are. Like people who've seen you on the fight nights or seen you on like the prelims of these kind of pay-per-views, right? But this is your first debut on the main card. You're walking out. What does what would your ideal walkout feel like, look like? I want to know it all. Music, the theatrics, if you have any fan
Well,
interactions.
it's I kind of went back and forth on this a little bit because in my mind, like I really like and enjoy the big spectacles and the kind of classic MMA walks that used to happen with, big screen, a bunch of fanfare, and in other promotions, you don't have to be the main person to have like a big theatrical walkout. It's you get to design your own and like you could work with people to get a video package and all that. So it's I think it kind of depends on what kind of like personality fighter you want to be because to me there's people who either you're going to pick a song and that's going to be like the song that identifies you to the audience where oh, that's Stone Cold's music, like
Mhm.
da-na,
The
da-na,
banana,
da-na.
banana,
Yeah,
banana.
yeah. So you could have that, or you could kind of pick and choose, kind of because I don't remember what Sean O'Malley used to walk out to, but upon his first title shot or his first main event, I think he might have been when he fought Sterling in Boston.
Yeah, the Lupe Fiasco Superstar.
Yeah,
Yo, that's an iconic song.
yeah,
Especially a
and it
perfect
was
song for a first title fight.
so good for him in that moment and like the match with the lyrics of the song. And I think that that's super cool for helping create moments. You know,
Absolutely.
it's so there. It feels like there's two kind of approaches. Because to me, I get hyped when like Aldo's "Run This Town" comes on. Like that like when you hear the song before there's any picture of Aldo, like you get the goosebumps going a little bit. Or back when whose walkout music was Linkin Park? It was
I Let me look it up. Let's
Diego.
rely on our old friend Google.
Yeah, it was Diego.
Which UFC fighter came out to Lincoln Park?
He's been retired for a
Oh, it
minute, or
says
maybe
several
close to that.
people have come out to Lincoln Park. So,
Right.
Leota Machida used to walk out to "In the End," which is an epic song. That's probably like if you're gonna come out to a Linkin Park song, that's that one or uh Faint or like Numb. I think that
It might have been who I'm thinking of. It's there's another
let's see.
Brazilian grappler that fought
One of
welterweight.
their newer songs, "Lost," which is also a phenomenal song. Uh, Someone came out to that. It says "Lost" was featured in the UFC 285 promo. Fighters have also walked out to other Linkin Park tracks, such as "Wastelands," which was used in the promo for UFC 174. Uh, but yeah, let's see.
Damian Maya, that's who I was thinking of.
And Israel has walked out to "Somewhere I Belong," which is another fire Linkin Park song.
Yeah, Damian Maya.
"Place for My Head" is another good one.
Uh, song. There you go. Yeah, Damian Maya walked out to Numb.
Oh, great song. I feel like you
Yeah,
can't go wrong with if you choose any of the songs, most of the songs from the Meteora album or Hybrid Theory. You can't go wrong.
yeah.
Those are both
There's
iconic albums.
bangers, and they have great
Absolutely.
builds too. So
Right?
it really like gets the arena and the crowd hype. So yeah, it's like I think you got to make that choice of do you want to pick a song that represents the moment, or are you going to pick like one song that you really like that kind of represents you in some way or like your style? Uh, like I'm sure there's other music just because there's so much music out there, and you could probably find something else to do it. But the kind of like tribal beats that Alex walks out to when he's doing like when he hits
Yeah.
the Native American stuff he
Mhm.
does, and then the bow at the same time, and it's like building up with the drum beats. Like
Yo,
the
Azkar
intro
has one of the
wouldn't be
best.
the same if you pick
Yeah,
different music.
absolutely. He has one of the best walkouts. He has one of the
Yeah,
best entrances today.
yeah, for sure.
And
And that the music is a part of it, like how like and
the
how he kind of
stoicism,
yeah,
a
and also
little bow and arrow.
he does such a good pace too because
Hmm.
he kind of walks out normally ish, like he's maybe a tad slower than normal, but then he hits the pause when he's going into do like the arrow launch into the combo. So he like slows it all the way down and like builds the tension for everybody on screen, and then he gives it to you. So like his has a ton of good features you want to pick out and build your own. And then there's the other school of like, okay, do you get something original or do you take someone else's thing? Like when Izzy came out as the Undertaker against Jared Cannonier, which that was also iconic and a huge moment.
Hmm.
So like, there's there's definitely no wrong answers. I think as long as you like pick a path and stick on it, because I don't know. For me, I think if I was just building one and I don't have a moment to associate with, I would want to pick something that's like one of the songs that gets people to oh, you know it'd be a good one just for
Hmm.
if you're going to pick that song and you're going to get people because I like when the crowd participates and they sing the song with the person and like that, and it gets involved. So I think one song that you usually see crowds sing with the person is "Mr. Brightside" by the Killers.
Hmm.
I think that'd be a good walkout song because everybody like come in with the chorus and sing the whole thing. You got the whole arena singing together.
Hmm.
So I think that'd be cool.
Oh yeah, because I think that if you choose a song that people also know, yeah, you could get the whole crowd buy-in, and I feel like that
Yeah,
would be like a nice way to walk out too.
yeah.
So,
What about yours? Like, do you have a go-to or like a routine that you think would be cool?
so I have an idea, right? Like I have a
Uh-huh.
theory that
Hmm.
I feel that a good entrance comprises of like three things, in my opinion, right?
Hmm.
Something that you would enjoy doing, right? That would get you locked into the fight, like get you like ready, like kind of like how Alex does the kind of like pointing the arrow at the person in the cage and just like he's hunting them down, right? They help
Hmm.
him lock in. Uh Tuivasa does, it's into the vibes of the walkout, right? Izzy with his dances, and then something that the crowd can feel like they're a part of, right? Like
Hmm.
the interaction, like something easy that the crowd can like feel like they're a part of, and or can like what like whether they're at home or at a bar, or, they're on a show talking about it, something easy they can replicate, right? Or feel like they have the buy-in at the live show, right? They can like be a part of something easy that they could be a part of too, right?
Hmm.
And the third one is like the, I guess this is not a word, but the merchability of said walkout. Like, can you make merch based off of, like the merch, like, when Patty the Batty walks out, a lot of people got the blonde wig of like, yeah, exactly, the little tan 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 tan, and a lot of people wearing the blonde wigs back when he had the haircut when he like that, like, oh, I survived the first winter kind of haircut, right? Yo,
Hmm.
the haircut he has now, looks a lot cooler. You know what I mean? But a
Yeah.
lot of people had the patty wigs, right? Or like with Alex, they got the Shama. You know what I mean? Like the Poetan shirts. So you know what I mean? Or Tai Tuivasa with the Shui. You know what I mean? Something that can be like big part of that. So I was thinking, right? If it would allow me, I would come out. I would have like one of those like the front part of the like a samurai helmet on, along with the just coming out with the the gear,
Hmm.
and have it kind of silent in the arena when you come out first, right? You come out, so there's like these, to play along to the whole Shogun kind of theme. Boom, have someone either hand it to you or pull out one of those Japanese war fans, like the tensen that like they use during like the feudal era. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then that way people know, when they play the music, when they start hearing the music, they know once they see the war fan, oh, it's time to go to war. It's time for battle. You know what I mean? Like you hear the music start playing in the background, like starting up. You raise the war fan, and then you point it down, like how they used to, like how Shingen Taka and all those like people would be like point the war fan down at the cage at the person, like Alex with the bow. People would just know, like, oh, the war fans out, the tenses are like, it's time for battle, right? You hit that, hit him with like a totsugeki, like a charge, like Japanese word to say. It's like it's like the word for like charge, like like you're like rushing the front lines, all right? Boom, you hit that, and then have a little, like, if you could, how like they will do like a chop up a song, right? Like like the Mini Man, like John Jones came out to Mini Man, I think it was, and then like went to his actual song. Boom, you have like a cannon shot in the background, like, yeah, boom, like boom, pull out the weapon, point it down at the cage, like that's okay, yeah. And then you hear dude, dude, dude. After three cannon shots, they play Sucker Punch by Joey Valence and Bray. So another, and Danny Brown. That's a really hype good vibes type song. I feel like that song gives you a lot of energy when you hear it, and it's just like help you lock in. It's I feel like it would be fun interaction from the crowd, and then also it's a dope song. It gives me a lot of energy. Right, they jump in like right at the 10-second mark of the song. Boom. Once the music hits after the third cannon shot, you and your team run, just like me and the team run down to the cage after that. Boom, right? You hit the fan, you boom, you see, because I think if you already got the fan base going, right? Once they see the war fan out, they already know, oh, the war fan's out, that means it's time we going to war, right? And like as a crew, right? The crowd is a part of it. They are part of the army. They're part of the Malik Miles army, right? Like the Nate Diaz army. Yo, you imagine 10,000 people with the war fan out, right? It's something small and it's like it looks cool and it's easily autographable, right? Like if I was at like a show, like oh, here's the undefeated prospect. A lot of people have been hype about this dude, 12-0, making his debut on the main card, opening the card, boom, and you hit that right there. People be like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's the oh like people who know what's up, they know what's up, and they gonna see like, man, all these people got these like fans out like with the but the people be like, oh, what's that? You see it, you already know what time it is. You already know when the war fans are, that means we going to battle, we going to war, and that's what we about to do. We about to get in this cage, get this knockout, get this finish, and then on up and on to bigger things. You at the weigh-ins, the pre-fight conference, boom, you coming out with that, they'd be like, oh, how's it going? Da, 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 da. They give you the like first questions for Malik Miles, and I'll be like, Miami, the great Manchester, right? You call out to the crowd, you know what I mean, and you
Mm,
raise they're gonna be like, but you can't use it all the time, right? You only use it at the fights, right? But
mm,
but you see fans, they coming for support. They already got you seen in the press conference crowd. People, I feel like they get in your mind. You see a whole crowd full of the war fans out. People, they're having the chance. They're going crazy with it, right? You're gonna be like, oh man, the people really rocking with it. They again, marketability. People see it, they vibing with it because your boy got I guess a fun style. Boom, right? People are rocking with it. They vibing. They be like, are you not entertained? the the New York City, Madison Square Garden. It's showtime. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, And so I think that once you hit the music and you start running, that plays into the theatrics of it all. We go into battle. We running, rushing towards the. So we're running. Boom! You make it to the thing. I think you've seen a whole Madison Square Garden, like 10,000 people with the war fans, or they buy the little Plaza Samurai helmet. You know what I mean? They gotta have the merch. They gonna be like, hey, you can get like the patty whip and just the samurai helmet. You're gonna see a bunch of people part of the Malik Miles army with the samurai helmet or the war fan. Boom, they're gonna be like, yo, if you played Samurai Wars, the one. It looks pretty cool, right? They're gonna be like, oh man. I feel like if you're the person going against them and you see the whole crowd is like, I think that's a bit. It's gonna be in your head like, man, yo, this dude really got the sauce. He got the crowd going because I think it's easy for the crowd to kind of like wave the fan or like put it up in the, you know what I mean, because it's not like a a, a complex dance number, you know what I mean, or something
mm.
like. I wish I could do that. That would be epic. But I feel like it's easy if someone just you hear the do 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 and then the hype music play. I think that's memorable, and if it's like people will be like, "Oh man, it's time." So you see the indicator of the fan, and then you hear the cannon shots, and then you hear the hype music. People will be like, "Oh man, it's 10 p.m.," but it feel like 8. It may be no, actually, it might be 12 midnight because technically it would be or 10, yes, since it would be the main card, right? It'd be like it's
Mhm.
10, but it feel like it's 5 o'clock. We got that energy. It's surging. We setting off the main card, right? You know what I mean? We're setting it off on a great start. By the time your boy make it to the main event at midnight, or people got that energy, now they're gonna be like, oh, it's time. It's time to get hype. It's time to turn up. It's time to, you know, have uh put on the show to send the folks home happy. You know what I mean? Uh Mr. Main Event has shown up. It is showtime. It is Mr. Main Event time. It's WrestleMania season. It's Malik Mania season in Madison Square Garden. Winning the title, oh man, that's gonna be a great time. But yeah, that's probably what I would do. It's something similar to that. You know, get the crowd involved. You know, people are gonna want to high five and be like, high five the way down, right? So yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking.
I don't know if the UFC would allow it, but I was thinking a really cool one would be if your nickname is pirate based, like Morgan Charrier or somebody like that.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if you could get one of those like flip up flagpoles, and the initially when the flagpole goes up, it has the like country of the person you're gonna fight, and then you
Hmm.
like ceremonially take it down and then raise like the black pirate flag up.
Oh, yeah, maybe yeah, if they would let you have it, like maybe
Yeah.
because I don't know if I feel like maybe the flag might of the other person country might be doing too much, but maybe a flag with their face on it, your opponent's face on it, and be like, yeah, you about to go down. It's our time. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. Because I feel that I feel like the other way I could see if you're playing the heel, right? But I
Mhm.
don't know. I feel like but I feel like if you had their face on it, like how like yo yeah, I think that would be a like boom, get the flag. No, someone get you gotta once you win, have the flag with their face on it, and then slowly roll it down. Put your face on, boom, put the flag in the middle of the octagon. I feel like people be like, oh, he won. It's time for the flag to come out.
Also, it would take way too much time, but it would also be a cool thing if you could fold
Or
their flag like
mhm,
in the triangle way and then present it to them or their team like when you're in the octagon with them.
you
That'd
might
be
that might
yeah,
cause
you
a
might get
fight.
hit. Yeah, you might
Yeah,
get hit, but it would
not a
be
might.
cool.
You definitely gonna get hit.
Well, you're gonna get hit in
That's
the fight
definitely gonna
anyway.
cause a fight. That's definitely starting a fight.
But it would be
But
cool if you just like put it down at his feet and then backed up.
that sounds like a 50K fine. I feel like honestly, I feel like planting the flag, like even if you don't put the like roll down the flag, even just put if you have a pirate based name and you just like get just a flat flagpole with your like whatever your like team
Mhm.
and put it in the center of the octagon, like after every time you knock someone out or finish them. Even that, I feel like, because people are gonna know eventually, it's gonna catch the first person off guard, and it's gonna catch maybe the second person off guard. But after a while, people are gonna start catching on. And once they start seeing you reach for the flagpole, someone's gonna kick that flagpole down and be like, "Nah, you're not about to plant the flag over here. Nah, hey, nah, not today, not in this city, fam." Their team, yo, I feel like maybe if you're gonna play the heel, that might be the best move to be memorable. But I was like, yo, yeah, actually, the flags is crazy
If
work.
he would have done, I'd like it wouldn't have worked out because he lost the fight. But imagine if his last fight against Nathaniel Wood in England, if he would have had the English flag up there and he took it down and then he put his own flag on it. Woo, the heat he could have got on that. I mean, he would have lost, so it wouldn't end up cool. But those are those like risks you take to be great.
Or to be extremely hated. Because that what you call it? Remember when Kane and who was it? There's been a couple of like rivalries that kind of heated, like Kane and Brock,
Mm.
Chael and Anderson. Uh, I feel like this one kind of got heated, but it wasn't to the level of like Chael and Anderson or Kane and Brockwood, but like Izzy and Whitaker when it
Mm.
was back when they were like both like, oh man, the king of the middleweights versus like the people feel like is gonna be the future of the middleweight, the future king. It was like Australia versus New Zealand, and like you know what I mean. It was like Rob Whitaker was like the face of Australian MMA and Izzy was the face of New Zealand. So they were like, oh, putting it back to against each other. We're like, I think yeah, I, man, that was you know what's but speaking of
Mm,
intense rivalries, right? How do you this is one of the things I was gonna kind of like segue into, but there was another question I was gonna ask something interesting, right?
mm,
After this thought.
yeah.
But did you watch the press conference leading into this fight, the UFC 314?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I after this, if you, I'm gonna need you to watch that. All right,
Okay.
a lot of a lot of things happen. A
Mm,
fair amount of things happen, right? Two big things happen. One was kind of unexpected. The other one was to be expected. And so, speaking of rivalries, the one of the new ones is going to be Diego Lopez and Yair Rodriguez. Was not expecting that, but they got some serious beef now. It's gonna be that would be a phenomenal fight, but they got some serious beef after the 314 press conference. The the Gene Silva and
mm,
Bryce Mitchell, or as uh, Silva said, Bryce Mitchell, yo, Gene Silva was probably is one of the best as far as like amping up the fight, as far as like the getting like the way he can like command the crowd. Like he has
mm,
that like the dog chant. You know what I mean? The
yeah.
woo, 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 when he goes up, and then everyone just starts barking. Like he'll go up there and he'll just be like. Woo, 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 and everyone's just like woo, 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 woo. I was like, yo, man, the charisma to just like start a chant and then the crowd do it with you. I feel like it's a very big gamble, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to go up there and start a chant and nobody do it, because then you're cooked. Because can you imagine if you just started doing the bam, 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 you know what I mean? Or trying to do the little you know what I mean? Like you want to start your own chant, right?
Yeah.
What is Tom Aspinall? Tom Aspinall has one. I don't know the frequent the not the frequency, but the rhythm to it. You know what I mean? There's that's the word I'm looking for. The cadence to
Mm,
the. I know the Tommy Aspinall. They were like da 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 da. Wait, I see. I don't want to do it because I know this the Tommy Aspinall chant. It's like the soccer chant, but I don't know the cadence of it enough to do it properly. But I feel like that's how you know when certain people are over with the fans is when you get a chant going
mm,
right for you, but you don't want to do it right because if you, I feel like it's like one of those old timey rifles where you get one shot out of it, like, and you just because if you do it and it hits, oh man, that means everyone can see. The UFC can see, the people back home can see it, people at home, people in the arena can see. Oh, this dude's got the sauce, or this girl's got the sauce, right? Like she or he has the crowd, and this is like a potentially a pay per view star, right? Pay per view
mm.
draw. Yo, but if you do it and nobody joins, one, you're cooked the entire press conference. Because if you do the, if you try to start something like, the Tiny the Fatty chant, where you just be like, let's say if you go up there and you're like, woo, 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 and everyone's just like, that's one of the moments when you just sit down in your chair and put the hat over, put the shades on, and just kind of, you just sit there in silence because that's embarrassing. If you do that in front of 5,000 people and no one joins you, man, you gotta be like, the UFC gonna be like, okay, this guy ain't got it like that, bro. Like, or maybe they're just like, ooh, that was kind of embarrassing, and then you move on. But I don't know. I feel like that's. What about you? How do you? I feel like. Do you think that's something someone could bounce back from? Do you try? If it was you, do you? If you were to do it right
Mm.
and it doesn't hit, do you try again later, or do you just dead that whole chant?
Nah, I don't think you go back to the chant well. I think that's one of those,
Like,
if you fail on the first one, you go like, okay, this isn't my crowd that's gonna rock with me. Or like you let them start on their own. Like maybe if you're hearing it a little bit from them and you like big up the support because you feel like you got it now, that could be something. But if you whiff hard on the first one, I would say like just let the crowd do it if they want to do it organically and save yourself because I feel like the first time you do it, people might not notice totally that that's exactly what you're trying to do. Or even if they do notice, no one might say anything. But if you go back to it and you try again, people are definitely going to laugh at you.
so let's say if you get a big finish, right? You go
Mhm.
out there, you get a first round knockout or first round submission. Even though that champ might have failed, right, at the press conference, when maybe let's say people didn't like, let's give this person the benefit of the doubt, right? Let's say you try it, no one does it with you, right? But
Mhm.
you go during the fight night. Let's say you knock out a dude first round, crazy fashion, right? It was a spinning back elbow. The crowd went crazy. People are going cheering you on. They're like, "Oh my god, that was such an insane knockout!" You got the microphone. People are still cheering in the crowd. Do you go for a re-up? Do you try to redo the chant now that I guess more people, because people are more amped and they're so hyped up on you in this moment, and now they're paying attention to you? Do you go for the same chant to see? Oh, now that everyone's kind of like ramped up on adrenaline, do you go for it again, or do you try a different thing?
I feel like it it depends on if it's a chant that bigs you up or puts down your opponent. Because if it's a chant that puts down your opponent and it failed, I don't think I'd go back to that. But if it was a chant that bigs you up and you feel like the crowd's on your side now, I think you could go back for it if you get a big win.
That's what I'm thinking too. I feel like you might return to the well on that scenario just to be
Yeah.
like, okay, y'all may didn't know who I was, and that's probably why y'all didn't join along. It's just like, okay, who's this dude? Okay, this dude's doing his thing. Okay, but I think you win enough. Oh, people will be like, oh, and you do it, and you're just consistent with that. Maybe people go, oh, okay, this is this thing. I want to be a part. But but yes, as far as rivalries go, man, the rivalry continues because they were kind of going at it during the press conference. They was going at it during their first press conference when Gene Silva brought out the globe and was like, "Hey, dude, let's have a geography lesson," type thing in the middle of
Mhm.
the press conference. And then the second fight, it just being like Loki trying to like punk him at the press conference, and then they have the weigh-ins, all that type of stuff. Who do you think the mental warfare that Gene Silva's implemented. How do you feel about going into this fight?
I think he's he's definitely done a good job in my opinion because there was that post a few weeks ago, I think it was, or maybe like 2 weeks ago, where Bryce said he wasn't sleeping good, and he was like, but obviously you can't state that if you're Bryce in any type of normal or sane way. So instead, he said like, "Oh, uh, Silva's like used his demon powers, and I can't sleep. I'm being haunted by demons sent from Silva and stuff like that. And I just can't sleep, and I'm feeling all this temptation and whatever. Like, so I think whatever he's because to me from the outside, like what Silva's doing looks ridiculous. You know, like he's barking at another person and doing all this stuff, and he's being really funny with like the globe stuff and all that. So to me, it just looks kind of funny and silly. But obviously, whatever he's done has got him bothered because I didn't see the latest one, but the old press conference that they did, Bryce definitely seemed upset at the time. You know, it's he didn't when he was talking, that wasn't someone who was like cool, calm, and collected. He seemed, if not emotional, definitely bothered. You know?
Yeah, I feel like at the first press conference, Gene Silva had Bryce looking like he was about to crash out at that press conference. Like,
Yeah.
because it was relentless the amount of trash talking Gene Silva was doing, and I think both of them have done a good. Like I feel like Gene has done a good job of like promoting the fight because I think that even though this is what like the second fight on the main card, it feels like the most anticipated fight on the fight card outside of like the main event and like the co-main, right? I feels like this is the fight before the co-main. However, in the second press conference, they were still going back and forth. I think the last time Gene Silva's and Bryce's interaction stole the show at the last press conference. I think this time Diego Lopez and Yair Rodriguez's interaction, the heated exchange between the two, kind of stole the show. But they were going back and forth, and even during they try to face people off after the press conference. Sorry, also if
Mm.
y'all hear me sniffling or allergies, following's crazy. But the when they face you off after the press conference, right?
Mm.
Gene literally got like I don't know if y'all can that close, like where their noses are touching. Like he just staring Bryce like in the windows of his soul, and Bryce is staring into the. They're both staring like in an intense face off. They're like face to face, nose to nose, right? They're like, and then and and all out of nowhere, Gene goes, "Woo!" He tries to flinch and make a fling. I was like, "Yo, this is," and he's like laughing about it. Bryce is sitting there just stewing with anger, and then Gene is just like laughing, and he's just like, and the whole crowd is just like, you know what I mean? Like the crowd is eating it up, and he's hyping it up. Gene's just like, yeah. Um, I think that I think the mental aspect of it, because I feel that like when you are going into I feel that Gene is taking up a lot of mental real estate in Bryce's mind right now, and I think that that could benefit him during the fight because Bryce is gonna chances are he might be fighting with a clouded mind because he might be in his mind once they close the cage, all he's seeing is red. He's like, man, this is trying to punk me at two different press conferences at two different weigh-ins. You try to play me, and he might be just looking for the go in and go for the finish off top, even though that may not be who he is. However, I don't think like outside of the weigh-ins, like they did during the weigh-in show, Gene Silva doesn't seem like he's too bothered about it.
Yeah. No, it's he
But
always seems to be smiling and kind of like silly about it, not really like ooh like he doesn't seem really mad at him. He just seems like he's having fun at Bryce's expense.
yeah, it's like because while I feel like when you're like super angry, you're focused on like, oh, I'm just focused on destruction type thing. It leaves you leaves you blinded, leaves blind spots of like, oh, you're not paying attention to this thing. You might get reckless here and there. I know that during the weigh-ins, Gene Silva, like Bryce weighed in, and then Bryce kind of like threw. They was like, oh, why isn't Gene Silva, weighing in? And then Bryce was like, oh, if he he probably was having trouble making weight because if he didn't have any trouble, he would have weighed in already. And so Gene Silva showed up. They brought out the tent. He got up there, said something in Portuguese, and then through the anger, it was like Bryce Mitchell, da 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 da, and we was like, oh man, he seemed angry about something. So, but Fabiano, I believe that's his name, the translator wasn't there, and he kept on saying Bryce Mitchell's name, and it was just like, and it pointed at the scale, and at first I thought he was trying to say, yo, the scale won't save you, like yo, I'm gonna make weight, you still gonna catch this work. um, and I think that like that's what I thought was going on, or like either that or them saying like, hey, I thought this was more trash talk going on, or maybe the scale was wrong because a lot of people was trying to figure out what was going on. Then afterwards, he came back and they said, "Hey, he's 1 pound over." And then later on, they said, "Oh yeah, like through the translator that like Gene was saying that like he's gonna make weight, that they should stay tuned in, and that he's still gonna knock out Bryce Mitchell." And then made weight and was just like, "Yeah, it's on, like it's happening." I think that going into it, I think Gene Silva is a lock to win this fight, in my opinion. Just me personally. I think that we've talked about it before. All the guys in the Fighting Nerds camp are phenomenal. Whether it's Gene Silva, Mauricio Rufy, Carlos Prates, Kyle Bahayo, they're all phenomenal. I think they're going to be future champions. I really think at some point it's going to be Kyle Bahayo at the middleweight champ, Carlos Prates as the welterweight champ, Mauricio Rufy lightweight champ, and then Gene Silva featherweight. I believe Gene Silva's featherweight, right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Gene Silva's, if I'm not mistaken, what, like 15 fights? 12 of those are knockouts, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me take a peek.
I think that, and Bryce has he's one of three people ever to finish a fight by twister, which is already an insane amount of skill is needed for that. So they're both really good. They're both good fighters. They're both elite at what they do. However, I think that what leaves Bryce open is like the fight with Josh Emmett. Bryce kind of flat footed. He kind of like, I think that if they get into a striking exchange, I think the key for Bryce is to go for the takedown and try to like work his jujitsu and try to win off that, because I feel like if Bryce can't take down James Silva, it's gonna be a long night for him. Because I don't think that in a striking exchange, it's heavily favored toward Gene Silva. Because I think, yeah, like Bryce Mitchell kind of flat footed. He doesn't like have that like mobility to kind of like right. I think that the longer they stand up, the more it favors Gene Silva. And I'm honestly, I do think there is the chance. You know, I think that Gene Silva knocks out Bryce Mitchell in the first round. That's just what I think is going to happen. I might be right. I might be wrong. There is a potential that Bryce shocks everyone and pulls off the upset. I don't think that will happen, but there is the chance of it. But I really think that Bryce Mitchell beats Bryce. No, I mean not Bryce Mitchell. I think Gene Silva beats Bryce. It's a And the Fighting Nerds have a parade in the city. Have a parade in of like, hey, our team stays undefeated. Like what is their like record? I think like they're like what, undefeated in the UFC, all of them, as far as like fights they've had. If I'm not mistaken, like they have like some
Yeah,
crazy record.
the main guys, like the big four, I think it is.
Yeah,
Like the main four are like 72, not 72, that's too many. Like 29, 30 something and 0 in the UFC.
yeah, they're on a phenomenal run, a generational run. Because like, when's the last time we've seen a camp where all the stars are undefeated? and they're winning with style points.
Yeah.
Not really often. So I think that I have this like a it's like a 98. There's a chance that Gene Silva underestimates him. I don't think that happened just because of how well the fighting nerds game plan for fights and how well their preparation leading into it is. I really do think that I'm calling it. I think first round knockout. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So because of the camp, like you're saying, I don't think that I don't think Silva is going to get submitted. He's never lost by submission in his career, and he started his career in Brazil. So you would think, oh, if he's not necessarily known as a grappler, so if he's going to get subbed, you would think it would be an early pro fight against someone who's a jiu-jitsu specialist down in Brazil and that, but he's never been submitted. Uh, you know, Bryce has a pretty nice record, but when you look at the the names that are on there, it's his big win streak. He's got like Edson Barbosa, but he beat Edson Barbosa in 2022. Uh, and then since that fight, he got submitted by Ilia Topuria, which has aged really great. Because Topuria beats almost everybody, so zero shame in that. Uh, then he fought Dan Ige after that and won a 3-round decision. But Dan Ige's been kind of proven at this point to be a kind of a very talented guy, but definitely is more of a stand and bang guy, and even then isn't towards the top end of the division where you'd say, oh, Dan Ige is a title contender at this point in his career. That you'd say he's in that kind of second or third group behind the title contenders, where they're super tough. You can't count them out. If you're a young guy coming up in the division, you got to be very careful if you draw a name like that. But he's also not one of those all rounders where you think, oh man, this guy's destined for the title. Uh, then obviously the big thunderous Josh Emmett knockout loss in the first round. Uh, One of the most gruesome knockouts in UFC history, with like the shaking violently on the floor. And then he had his get back at the end of last year against Kron Gracie, TKO in the third round. But as we said, I think even before that fight, like Kron Gracie, unless you walk into a submission from him and you play that game with him, he doesn't really have a path to victory. Like Kron Gracie lacks the kind of basic MMA skills where you kind of wonder, why is he even in the UFC and doing it? Why doesn't he just do jiu-jitsu full time, teach classes, and make a bunch of money? It doesn't make sense why he was in the UFC even for that fight. And I think that matchup kind of reveals how the UFC was thinking about Bryce prior to his kind of big controversy, which is they obviously liked him from a promotional perspective, where after a huge KO loss, they gave him Kron Gracie. He might have been like a minus 600-700 favorite in that fight. And it's not like the UFC matchmakers didn't know what they were doing when they put that together. They were trying to get him back on the right track. So I think this booking to me symbolizes how it's going to be moving forward for Bryce Mitchell with the controversies and the negative attention he's brought to the UFC, which is they've publicly made their stance known that basically if you're a fighter for the UFC, you can kind of say more or less whatever. Like you gotta still kind of keep it within reason. I think like outright calls for violence would maybe be the line, but even then, who knows? Based on their response to his comments, but it seems like their way to quote unquote punish you is in how they book you moving forward. So I think that Silva is the punishment. You know, it's they're not gonna fine the guy or kick him out of the promotion. Instead, here's your punishment, and you can expect more of this going forward unless you somehow turn it around, I guess. So I'm with you. Usually, how the UFC sets it up is how it goes. I think maybe Bryce gets overconfident based on what he was able to do to Kron Gracie, where obviously he was able to let his strikes go against Kron because Kron's not a very good UFC fighter. So if he thinks there's even a chance he could stand more than a few seconds with Silva, I don't think that's going to go well. Uh, and Silva showed at the beginning of his last fight, he's not necessarily going to rush in there in a dumb way. It's he might give off an impulsive kind of front, like his face is his like face that he puts out to the world. His veil is very impulsive and like aggressive, raw, you know. But we saw in the fight, it's Bisping and Felder were getting on him about how inactive he was in the first round until he picked his shot and found the knockout. So he's one of those guys where he kind of like there are guys I think everybody knew in school who are like this, where they don't want any attention for it, or like they pretend to be dumber than they are. Like you ever know one of those guys where if you talk to them and you're like, or you see their grades sometimes, you're like, man, wait a minute, you're doing really good. Like you're really smart. And they're like, yeah. Yeah. Like they don't want to talk about it. They don't want anyone else to know like they're smart. I think Silva is that type of character where he wants you to think he's this like crazy, impulsive, running around guy. But behind the mask is a cold calculator who's waiting and looking for for tells and signs. And that's why I think he's going to end up getting the victory. And like you say, I think it'll be a knockout.
The Yeah, I have really I yeah the base yeah I do think it's gonna be a quick one. It's gonna be oh it's I think that they're I think that's where this card potentially is going to begin, right? No shade or disrespect to the other, like, because there's one more fight. You know, the Dominic Reyes Nikita Krylov fight does look like it's gonna be a fun fight. I feel like a fairly balanced fight, but I think that the Gene Silva Bryce Mitchell, I feel like that's probably like the first lock of the night as far as, and probably one of the more of the five fights on the main card. One of the three, like, oh man, we've come for this.
Yeah. There's definitely been
I think
a build up for that.
yeah, been a big build up on that, right? But I think another fighter that's had a like a really big build up is the Patricio Pitbull and Yair Rodriguez fight because a lot of people we've talked about it before. You've actually mentioned this, and this was one of your people that you wanted to bring over when we talked about it. I think one of the episodes. You know, it's
Hmm.
been a lot of them. One of the previous ones when we talked about like who outside of the UFC would you like to see fight in the UFC? And you had mentioned mine was Stamp Fairtex, yours was Patricio Pitbull. And for anyone who doesn't know, and I think we can both agree on this, is that of the Bellator fighters that kind of joined the PFL um, Patricio Pitbull is the best fighter in the history of Bellator,
Yeah.
if we're being fair, right?
Mhm.
like a two-time featherweight champion, a lightweight champion, a successful two-division champion, 12 wins by knockout, 12 wins by submission, 36-7. Like the stats write themselves, you know what I mean? Like there's not a whole lot of promotion you need to do around of like, oh man, this and that. Like, no, like if you just look at the stats says greatness, right? And I think that's been one of those big questions of like, I think a lot of people, when you think about people like, oh man, those like fantasy matchups, like, oh, I wonder how this person would have done in the UFC, or like, I wonder during their prime or that. Like, I felt that a lot of people felt that way about like Fedor, right? And like now Patricio Pitbull and like Stamp, because I think Stamp Fairtex would do phenomenally in the UFC. But now we're getting to see, okay, you're taking the best of. I think Patricio Pitbull embodies all the best parts of Bellator, or what Bellator could offer, has to offer, right? There was a bunch of fighters that came from the Bellator, that came from Bellator. You have some people who are in the UFC right now who are doing well. Like, you have your Michael Chandlers, your MVPs, um, him. And then, I feel like since Kayla Harrison was part of PFL, and now that, PFL and Bellator are like the same thing, those four have came over, and those four were like the big stars, right? And then we'll get to see, okay, how does he match up against top talent, the UFC's top talent? Because if we're being honest, UFC is the gold standard when it comes to MMA. Like, if you want to be the best, you got to come to the. I feel that the UFC is where the best fight the best, essentially, if you want to test yourself, right, against the best in the world, because just the level of competition is different, right? There's a lot of amazing promotions, but I don't think it's not fair. I think it's fair to say that the UFC is the gold standard. And we'll get to see Bellator's best fighter take on someone like Yair Rodriguez, who is a tricky Rubik's Cube of razor blades. Because if Yair Rodriguez can get going, there's so many strikes coming from so many directions. You might get hit with a rolling thunder. You might get hit with a heel kick. You might get hit with a flying knee. Strikes, this, that. Like, he is exciting and he's very fascinating to watch. And like one of the Ultimate Fighter winners, and from his season. And I think this fight is going to be very fascinating. And I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really fun. I think this one's probably the like one of those toss ups where it's 50-50 of like who you think's gonna win. I originally, like, first reaction, I was kind of like, oh, Yair Rodriguez. I think he's really good, right? When you think about all the fights he's had, I was like, okay, like, and his skill sets and how everything matches up. I was like thinking like, oh, Yair Rodriguez, like, obviously, right? Like, it's different competition. However, the more time goes on and the more I think about it, right,
Mhm.
I've actually switched my opinion. I've actually switched my mind on who I think's gonna win this. Because I think for the last week, I was thinking like, okay, yeah, Yair Rodriguez. But I'm going to switch my call and say Patricio Pitbull, right? One, based on what we just said, based on
Mhm.
like, hey, here are the stats. And do think when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, these are really impressive things to have, but being in the UFC is different, right? But Yair has never become champion, right? Patricio Pitbull only knows championship, champ time stuff, right? And also another pattern I noticed, right, that I think may happen is if you look at all of the people, like all of the stars that have come from Bellator slash PFL, they all had phenomenal debuts. They like all of the fighters from all the stars from the PFL Bellator group. They've had a ranging level of success, right? Like Kayla Harrison's about to fight for the belt. MVP is like fairly like moving his way up in the middleweight division. Michael Chandler's kind of a fan favorite, but he's in the mix, but he's having his kind of like skid right now. But if you look at all of their debuts, they all had very dominant, very memorable finishes, wins, and all of them finished like if I'm not mistaken. Either they all finished their yeah, I think no, they didn't all finish their opponent, but they all made it look very. They all like beat the brakes off their opponent. Kevin Holland, remember the Kevin Holland versus MVP fight?
Yeah.
He took him to task. You know what I mean? Like Kevin Holland's a phenomenal fighter. Like he's very good, one of the best.
Mm.
But MVP made Kevin Holland look like they weren't on the same level. Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison beat the brakes off Holly Holm. And Holly Holm is a former champion. And the person who beat Ronda Rousey, beat the legend that's Ronda Rousey. Like Kayla Harrison walked through her like it was nothing. And then Michael Chandler's first fight in the UFC, Dan Hooker. That knockout, that when he hooked him and said, "Yeah," and dropped Dan Hooker, that was like a memorable moment where you're like, "Wow." So I think that for the PFL Bellator stars, they're 3 for 3 on memorable, exciting, dominant debuts. And I feel like if anyone's going to continue that trend, I think it's going to be Pitbull. One's been a champion, one's got plethora of experience being a champion, one doesn't. It's going to be exciting, but I really do think the pattern continues and we see a dominant finish from Pitbull. I think maybe second round.
Yeah, it's I'm kind of I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place with it because I think the obvious difference is going to be the takedown. I think if it's all on its feet, Yair Rodriguez is going to win. The common theme between the Volk loss and the uh, Brian Ortega loss was that those guys were able to get their takedowns, and Ortega was able to get to a decision. But I just think if you don't involve the takedown in your performance against Rodriguez, it's going to be a problem. And I just don't know, without seeing him recently, I don't know if he's going to be able to hit takedowns against Yair Rodriguez. Not because I think Yair Rodriguez is some like elite grappler or anything. It's just I don't know because I haven't been watching his performances recently if Pitbull's going to be able to do that. So in my mind, then I kind of like lean towards Yair, but the part of me that flips the other way is even though I wasn't watching them, I know he was two division champ in Bellator, and I don't think that your top of featherweight and two division champ in what still towards the top end. There was still some good top end talent in Bellator. It's not like he was just fighting scrubs. So I would think you can't be king of those divisions and specifically those weight classes without the ability to grapple. So and being only 5'5", at 145 and 155 pounds in Bellator, I would think he's faced guys who are bigger and like more rangy than him
rangier.
before. Yeah. So I would think this is a camp where he's had to do this type of fight before, even though I haven't particularly seen it. I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt because of all of his other accomplishments, and I'm going to roll with you. I don't think he'll finish him, but I think it'll be a 3 round decision where I don't know. I think Yair might win the first, in my opinion, just because the big moment. Everybody has talked about coming to the UFC and how you don't think it's going to be different. Like even Kayla Harrison said she didn't expect it to be that different because of all the high level competition she's had, and she's been a champion in PFL before, and like
And she won
she's
the
been on
Olympics.
stages. Yeah, and she's been at the Olympics. She's been on all these big stages, but being in the UFC was just a different thing. It was a different pressure, a different feeling than all those other things. So I think Yair might come out and win the first, and then I think second and the third, Pitbull gets the takedowns, earns enough in the rounds to be able to get the decision.
That's I think that like looking at it, I think if I'm Pitbull or if I'm the maybe the coach in Pitbull's corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the ways to win, his way to win is if you're Pitbull, you gotta run up on Yair, run up on him, get in it and get in his face. Very beginning of the fight, run down on him, get up in his face. Hey, stick tight. Use your striking to mix in your striking with your grappling. Use your striking to set up your takedowns because he's already. I imagine Yair Rodriguez is already had already game plan for the takedowns and already thinking he's gonna go for takedowns. So you run down on him very beginning of the fight, get in his face, make him worry about the striking. He's got 12 knockouts, so that means he's got power in his hands. He's got the ability to put someone out. Get him hurt, gain that respect, get up on him dirty, ha ha ha, and don't give Yair any space. Don't give him any room to get creative, because I feel like because if you give Yair room to work and you give him space, that's when things get dangerous. That's when things will get dangerous for people because if you give him space, Jair is gonna pull a rabbit out the hat
Hmm.
and be like, "Ha ha, got something for you."
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, if you're a pit bull, you get up, run down on him. Hey, make it a dirty fight. Hey, get in there, huh? That dirty boxing. Hey, boom, boom. Hit him with strikes. Get him worried about that. Go for use that to set up your double leg, your high crotch, your single leg, whatever it is. Like grappling, get him to the ground, and then boom, get work. Get into get your grappling going, get your striking going on the bottom. Maybe go for a submission. I think that if you are, because I think just to stand on his feet and just to stand there and have a stand and bang with Yair Rodriguez, while it would be exciting for the fans to see them just have a cowboy shoot, like an old like Wild West shootout, like a cowboy stand up and just stand there in the pocket and just huh, 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 have a full on Red Dead Redemption fist fight in the ring. I think while that would be exciting for the fans, I don't think that's smart for Pitbull to do with someone as dangerous as Yuri Rodriguez, right?
Hmm.
While it would be fun and exciting, and I do think there's a 50-50 chance he may win that standoff, that fist fight in the center. There's also that 50% chance you may lose that, right? And he's coming to the UFC with a lot of steam and a lot of expectations, pressure slash excitement. So if he clears Yair Rodriguez in like a dominant fashion, like his cohorts, like the people before him, like his other like the other stars PFL and Bellator have done in the past in their debuts, you have a legitimate like contender on your hands straight off the rip. If you're Yair Rodriguez, hey, keep that man at range. Use those long limbs. Keep him at the end of your jab. Keep him at the end of your kicks. Don't let him get too close. Hey, keep him at range. Get to work. Because in order to go for a takedown, you need to be close.
Mm.
Unless, because then otherwise your form's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be looking like you're going for desperation shots, right? Like it's hard to go for a single leg. It's hard to go for a double if you're like if the person you're fighting has way longer limbs and they're keeping you at distance. Keep prevent the takedowns every time they go for the takedown. Hey, Wizard, get like kind of sprawl, get him up. Hey, make him work his way back up. Hit, you know what I mean? Hit him with a,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Hit him with that concise, and keep him up off of you. But I think Yair, his path to victory is through striking. I think Pitbull could win striking or grappling, but I think it's grappling is probably the path of least resistance.
Mm.
Like moving. Speaking of people who are kind of like whether to go the exciting route or the the safe, calculated route. Not the safe
Mm.
because I guess there's either way is dangerous in that scenario, right? To whether
Yeah.
you want to because Yair Rodriguez is it's not like he doesn't have any ground game. You know what I mean? So it's still
Yeah.
dangerous regardless.
Well,
But it's
he submitted Ortega back in the day. I mean,
exactly
technically
like
Ortega was hurt, but
exactly.
he caused the hurt with his grappling. So it was kind of a weird situation.
And so it's a dangerous way either way, but I think it's this I guess the more calculated path to take to the calculated path to victory is hey,
Yeah.
there's a good chance you're grappling and submission game is better. It's going to give you the advantage. It's better than Yair's in maybe in certain exchanges, right? Than it would be in the striking, right? There's a 50-50
Right.
chance in striking where maybe in the grappling it might be 60-40 or maybe 70-30. Who knows?
Mm.
But that's probably going to be the safer, even though there's not really any safer route than just standing in the pocket and having like a Wild West like firefight in the center of the octagon. But speaking of people who this is the exact example of do you go the exciting route or do you go the hey, I want to put on a show for the fans or do I want to like what do I need to do to win? No one fits that better than Michael Chandler because Michael Chandler is a fan favorite. He goes out there to put on a show for the fans, send the people home happy. And even though he is what 1-4 in the UFC right now, no, 2-4,
Yeah, two and
right?
four, I think.
2-4 in the UFC right now, and I think he's lost what 4 of the last 5.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible, right? Like if you take if without context, if you say, hey, here's this guy who was a former champion in another league who came to the UFC and now has lost the last 4 of his last 5 fights and is currently 2-4. Someone without the context would be like, "Wow, this guy's not that good. Maybe they need to cut him, or maybe he's just you know what I mean whatever it is." But that's not the case though. Like, yes, a loss is a loss, but all those 4 losses were exciting fights to watch because the Gaethje Chandler fight, that was a fight of the year. You know what I mean? That was a crazy car wreck of a fight where it looked like either of them were gonna fall down at some point. Like they were throwing exchanging some power shots where it felt like every time someone landed a shot, I was like, oh, is that the fight that is that the punch that's gonna end it? And they had a crazy back and forth war, right? The Charles Oliveira fight, crazy fight, had him hurt, got caught, right? Second Oliveira fight, Oliveira looked like, hey, I am the legendary Super Saiyan. Know who I am? Do your Google searches. And but even at the end, throughout the time, Michael Chandler had his moments. But even when he jumped and did the little when Oliveira was in that backpack, he said he jumped up into the air and did the little back slam, and then he said, "Do it again." Stood back up and jumped in back. Like one, the level of strength that takes to be that tired after a full on fight with one of the greatest, with a future Hall of Famer. You had a long drag out knockout battle, and for you to do the back slam and stand up with the dude on your back and then do it again, very impressive, right? Um, I believe he had lost to Dustin Poirier as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so it
Yeah,
since he got in the UFC, it was uh, that first round KO of Dan Hooker,
yep,
and
which was
then
exciting. Set him off to
jump
a right start.
right in against Charles Oliveira, got KO'd in the second round,
Mm-hmm.
and then the 3 round loss to Gaethje, then the upkick victory over Tony Ferguson, and
Which was
then
knockout of the year,
yeah, and
in
then
my opinion.
uh, the third round submission against Poirier, and then the last Charles Oliveira one where he was doing the backflips.
Mm-hmm.
So all
And
killers the whole time, just like, but he's not ending up on the right side of it all the time. But level of competition completely unmatched. I mean, he was still he's obviously much further along than most guys when they get to the UFC, so that's why he's in the upper end of the pool already. But to have 5 UFC fights and have them be Dan Hooker, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira, like that's
that's
just
an
straight
insane run.
killers only. Like you got to be a dog to even get booked against Michael Chandler.
Yeah, the because that means in those five fights, to fight future Hall of Famers,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
you got locked in Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier,
yep,
Justin Gaethje's going to be in there, so 3.
yeah,
Uh,
technically, yeah, three.
I mean, you could argue Tony Ferg should be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Was the interim champ, had one of the longest streaks in uh, lightweight division history. You you know was phenomenal in his day for sure. Like probably will end up in the UFC Hall of Fame. So like 4, and then Dan Hooker's still got some time to go. I mean, he's just 35 now. He's having this resurgence in his career. He's won 3 straight.
His resurgence has been phenomenal. Like, I think
Yeah,
everybody in the world, anybody who knows MMA or anybody who, if who's even just the slightest fan, when they saw the Gaethje versus Dan Hooker fight, they were like, "Oh, this is going to be fight of the year. This is the fight we are all looking to see, hoping to see."
yeah, for sure. And I mean, when when Dan Hooker lost uh, that absolute war against Poirier, and then uh, lost by KO to Michael Chandler, I think most of us thought, "Oh man, that's it." And then he got a win against Hakparast, and you thought, "Okay, maybe we're back." And then Islam Makhachev and Arnold Allen back to back first round losses, and you go, "Oh man, it's over again." And all he's done is build himself back up. His last 2, Turner and Gamrot, and now he's back in the conversation again at 35. Like in your UFC, like tippy top years where it's title or bust.
Yeah, and you talking about Ferguson and the run that he was on, Pitbull, and like what he's done in his career, Chandler, what he's done in his career, right? We're gonna get into Volk and Lopez, the main event, the fight. The reason we are all here. You know
Oh
what I
wait, we
mean?
got to pick. We didn't
Huh?
pick. Did we? Did we pick Chandler versus Pimblett?
Oh no, no, sorry about that. And
Okay.
then yeah, we didn't do that. Let's pick. So
Okay.
also, I will say this too, right? Because
Yeah.
we didn't talk about. We was talking about Chandler the whole time. Patty,
Yeah.
and I will say I was like Patty's run has been nothing short of like spectacular, right? Uh, outside of the Jarrett Gordon fight, right?
Okay. So
The However, I will say this as a caveat is outside of the Jared Gordon fight, yeah, outside of that,
yeah.
and what I mean by spectacular is like you know, well, man, I was skeptical at first, right? Like I was like I felt that I was in the beginning I was kind of like he's very good at marketing. Like what I mean by spectacular is that like he's very good at marketing. Like his marketing, like understanding of how to get the fans going and get the fans amped. It's great. He really understands like, hey, being a dope fighter, but also how could I get the fans involved? You know what I mean? Like, how can I be dope with the fans and get over with the fans, but also like kick butt at the same time? Because you can be the best fighter in the world, but if no one cares to see you fight, it kind of is like one of those like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to see it, did it really fall type situation, right? And I'm not gonna lie, like in the beginning, I wasn't feeling it. I was not. I was like, oh man, Patty's probably. I was like, I thought he was kind of overrated. I was like, this or that. I was like, oh, King Green's got it, like this and that, right? Wasn't really feeling survive the first winter haircut, right? And I was thinking like, I was like, King Green got it, this and that. But through after that win against King Green, I was like, yo, honestly, that's what earned the respect with me personally. I mean, like, who am I? But I think me as a fan, though, him beating, like, I'm a fan of King Green. I think he's a veteran of the sport, phenomenal dude. He's a proper challenge. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, if you want to make yourself legit, you want to be a real one, you fight King Green, and if you could beat King Green, hey, that means you a real one in the division. Because not everyone's just doing that, right? So I think that like
Yeah.
seeing him go against King Green and then beat him in the fashion that he did, I was kind of like that. That I feel while I was sad because I wanted King Green to win, I think it won me over as a fan. You could be like, oh man, this dude is like legit, legit. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, this dude's really out here putting work. Where when you look at, but even before then, when I wasn't really on it, but now you have to respect it. Like the getting the fans, with the ba 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 ba. Also, I'm not gonna lie, even when I wasn't on the bandwagon, the song's great though. I enjoy the song, and it's fun. It's
Yeah.
energetic. It gets the crowd pumped because once you hear the dun, 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 what did I say? The three parts to a good walkout. You got to enjoy it yourself. Slash, it's got to get you locked in. Patty looking like he having a blast, right? Like he's like bam, 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 and the crowd loves doing it with him, and the crowd feels like they're getting interacted with it, right? They got the Patty
Yeah.
hats, they out here doing the and they got the oh Patty the body, right? Like it's
Mhm.
very simple, it's very easy to do, it's very easy to replicate, right?
Right.
It's the second part of the entrance, right? Third part, it's got the merchability. He's got the merchability. People are buying the wigs, those blonde wigs. But when you see his game, though, like the striking is good. Like he's got good striking, good grappling. He's got good jujitsu, and I think that I feel like I will admit I think with Patty there is a lot of goalpost moving
Mm.
because for me, once I if I feel like you're overrated or I feel like you're underrated, I have in my mind my own like, hey, this is where the goalpost is, I guess, for me. And if you can reach that goalpost, I'm just like, you know what I mean? Props to you, right? Like, even if I don't like a fighter, if you can do, hey, like, hey, you did this, cool bet. I'm not gonna be the one fan that's just like, well, you gotta beat this guy. Oh, you beat this guy. Well, technically this guy wasn't he had a bad lunch. He wasn't feeling too well. You didn't really beat him on his best day. You know what I mean? Like, hey, props to you, right? But I think that when you look at it, he does have a very good overall skill set, and I do think he gets the fans. And I think that his skill set going into this fight is, I feel like he's very underrated. I think not very underrated. I think he's fairly underrated going into this fight, or being under. I think maybe underestimated. I guess, let me put it that way: underestimated against the because when I first saw the fight, I think instant reaction was, oh, Michael Chandler, because the size of Michael Chandler compared to Patty, and also the power and explosiveness of Michael Chandler. Like that front kick when he kicked when he hit Tony Ferguson with that. That was such a crazy front kick. That's still one of the best, like one of the best knockouts right now. To be
Mm.
like, yeah, I got the he. If he was on an NFL field, he could have kicked that thing from the 30 to the other end of the 30, from the 30 to the 40. He'd have been like, heck yeah, we going for a 40-yard field goal, 50-yard field goal. Uh, so if you get hit with a shot like that, it's pretty wild. But he's got the what they say. Thought he got the sorcerer chin. He was like, who's the dude who said that? His somebody said about Patty saying like guys just don't get knocked out. Like he don't get knocked out. He's got like a chin made of granite, and he has taken some shots. You know what I mean? He's got a chin. He's got a chin of
Mm.
granite. He's got a stone chin. However, it does make me interested to see like could his chin withstand like the power of Michael Chandler, right? Like that hook he hit Dan Hooker with the front kick, right? Will his chin hold up? I think maybe. I don't know. I actually don't know in this scenario, right? But there's a lot of things I was thinking like, oh yeah, Michael Chandler's got the wrestling, he's got this, but I think the thing with Michael Chandler though is he does get wrapped up in the crowd. So if they're in a striking exchange, they're like, oh, going for it, and the crowd's like, right? Michael Chandler's gonna be like, you know what? To heck with the game plan. We sitting out there and we put on a show for the fans, and he'll just sit there and just get reckless and like start like he'll just sit there and like slang and bang in the pocket. He'll just go in there and throw all caution to the wind and kick down the chairs, flip over the tables, and just start like throwing caution to the wind and throwing front kicks, back kicks, spinning elbows, spinning backhand. He's just going to throw. He's going to empty the tank. But Patty is I would say he's very like smart dude. He's very good fight IQ, and he's gonna be like, okay, oh, you're about to throw caution to win. Bet I will partake for a little bit, and then I'm a sidestep, elbow. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna make the most of this. I'm gonna counter this. I think that like I think Michael Chandler has all of the abilities to win, and so does Patty. But I, it's a it's a matter of will Michael Chandler do what he has all the skills he needs to win this fight and to
Mm.
win all of his other fights. But it's a matter of will Michael Chandler do what he need? What will he do when he's faced with it? Will he take the quote unquote safe route and just do what needs to be done to win the fight so he can be in the win column, move on to the next one, potentially may call out Conor McGregor again? Or will we see the same Michael Chandler who gets uh, influenced by the crowd and it's just like, you know what? To heck with the plan. Let's have fun. Let's put on a show and just and become more a little more reckless, right? Where
Mm.
I don't think Patty's too swayed by the crowd one way or another. Like
Yeah,
obviously if they're cheering for him, that's good, but I don't think he's like, oh, if they're cheering for me, cool. I'm still do the game plan, and if not, then like most important, he's like, I got kids to feed. I'm gonna do what I need to win. Michael Chandler has kids too, and he's still gonna get paid. But I think that like Patty's more of a hey, let me do what I need to do to win, and if a finish comes by that, gravy. And I think Michael Chandler is like, hey, let me put on a show for the fans and go for the finish and do everything I can do to get the finish. And if I get the finish, phenomenal. But I'd rather go out on the shield rather than try to do a safe, boring fight. So I think Patty wins early third.
okay, so to me, I don't see Patty winning the fight by KO or TKO, and I don't see Michael Chandler getting submitted, considering he went 5 rounds with Charles, and Charles was on his back for a significant amount of time, and Charles couldn't finish him. So I think Mike will be okay from the submission threat, and I don't think he's going to get knocked out. So to me, that leaves, and I don't think that Michael Chandler's going to make adjustments. I think he's going to fight the way Michael Chandler fights. So
Which will be fun and exciting.
yes. So I think there's two possibilities. All of those things agreed in my head, which is either Michael Chandler is going to knock out Paddy Pimblett, or Paddy Pimblett's going to win a decision. In that same kind of way of like, you can't, if you come out looking for a knockout, you're not going to win a decision. If you come out looking for a decision, you're not going to get a knockout probably. So I think those are kind of the two ways I see it going. And I think that Patty leaves a lot of, he's hittable is what I'm trying to say. It's he
Oh, for
leaves a
sure.
lot of opportunities and windows for guys to exploit, which is why in the past against like Jared Gordon, why most of us thought he lost that fight was because Jared Gordon was tagging him. Like he was getting after him, and that was a super close fight where it looked like Jared had done enough to get the decision. So because of how open he is and how powerful Mike is and how heavy he's going to throw for it, I'll go with Michael Chandler first round knockout of Paddy Pimblett. I really hope he doesn't call out Conor McGregor because to me it could not be more obvious that Conor McGregor is never going to fight again. Outside of maybe like 5 years from now, Conor might do some freak show boxing thing, but to me, Conor McGregor will never fight in the UFC again. Period. It is completely done. It's I think everyone on the roster would beat him at this point. Like if you're
It's a
on the
very
UFC,
dangerous division to return back to right now.
well, I mean, not even that division. I just think whoever he would get matched up with would just like blow the doors off him because you've seen the type of activities he's been getting up to. He's not been training seriously. He's not been like focusing and drilling and getting better. He hasn't been in the gym like that. It's he's been certainly keeping in shape. He's been doing like physical exercise, but has he been working on his technique? Has he been polishing and adding to his arsenal? No. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So it's I think whoever he would fight, he would get absolutely destroyed, and I don't think he's going to come back and do that. I think he would go do something where he can excuse a loss, like freak show boxing or something like that, where him and the UFC can make some money off of it. But I think that would have to wait until he figures out that he's probably not going to be president of Ireland. Maybe after that kind of sinks in, maybe he'll look to raise funds some other way. But until then, it it's best to move on if you're Michael Chandler. And you haven't fought. Uh, well, let me see. Let me see who's at the top of the division that he hasn't fought, who he could realistically call. So he is number 7. He's taking on number 12. So he can kind of go anywhere above 12 after that. What would be fun? He's already fought Hooker. Dustin Poirier is going to have one more fight in the retire. It's not going to be Michael Chandler.
Oh,
Uh,
Dustin Poirier does not rock with Michael Chandler in any form or fashion, so he's definitely not going to let him be his final fight.
yeah, I tend to think it's going to be Holloway. It looks like that's just how that's going to end up matched up. Gaethje seems like he's destined for maybe the title next, and also I don't think Gaethje and like the fans would want it, but I don't think Gaethje wants to do that fight again. It does nothing for him. It's just a whole lot of hurt for no gain, and he's done that one twice now. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or no, he hasn't done that one twice. He's done Poirier twice. It's he's done that once. So there's no real need. Uh, I don't think to run him and Chandler again. Uh, Charles and Charles is kind of like locked up at the top of the division here in serious title stuff. I'm trying to think what could be interesting that we could do with Michael Chandler. Maybe Hinato Moicano.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad.
I think that could be fun. It's both those guys
Mm-hmm.
have great personalities. It's there's a path to victory for Moicano with his grappling. There's a path to victory for Chandler with his striking. Uh, and the build-up would be fun. It's something you could put on a main card. It's not like there's not a big stake in it for Chandler, but also he's got to know with his record in the UFC, even if he's coming off a win here, 3-5, like you can't expect title shots yet. You got to string together some wins before you can get up there, and then other than that, maybe like a short notice deal because he stays in shape. We've seen that
Mm-hmm.
completely. Like out of camp Chandler and in camp Chandler is still like completely shredded, doing the garage bike with the sauna and all that. Like guy stays ready, so he could definitely be a short notice guy who gets a title shot if he gets a victory here. So there's still plenty to play for if you're Michael Chandler, and it's I think he'll get it done. Hopefully he uses it to promote his business or anything else. Don't call out Conor McGregor. That's the only thing I have on my list. Just don't call out Conor. As long as you don't do that, you're fine.
So I have since I very understandable. So since we was talking about Connor, we was talking about we've been talking about featherweights a fair amount of the episode, right? I have
Mm.
some rapid fire trivia
Okay.
for you. Rapid fire featherweight trivia for you. Since we've been talking about featherweights a lot, right?
Mm.
Rapid fire, just give me your thoughts, and we'll see how it goes. Who has the most fights at featherweight in the UFC?
Hmm.
I'll give you one hint. The answer is 27 fights. One a part of the answer is 20. This person has 27 fights.
At featherweight.
Hmm.
Just in the UFC or like in their career?
Just in the UFC.
Ooh. Um,
There's two possible answers that I would accept.
I'm trying to think who's. Is it. Is, Is Miller. Is he featherweight?
Mm-mm.
No. Is he 55?
I think so.
Because he's on this card too, I think. Yeah, Jim Miller. He's fighting Chase Hooper. Oh, he's 55. Okay, my bad.
You're good.
Um,
He definitely would have been the answer if it was for 55.
yeah, yeah. If it was lightweight,
47 UFC walkouts. That's crazy. He's made the walk down to the cage, what, 47 times? That's super impressive, but also really crazy.
I'm trying to think who's had a lot. Maybe Holloway.
You are correct. It is two people. It is Max Holloway and Derek Elkins are both tied with having 27 fights in the UFC.
Man, that's
True
crazy.
or false? Oh, go ahead.
No, that's crazy. Because like
Right?
the other thing
It's
was,
just
I knew that like Aldo had a bunch of his fights before the UFC, so I
mhm,
knew it wasn't going to be Aldo. So I was like, well, it's got to be somebody who's successful though. Like, you know what I mean?
mhm. Yeah, because it's just that like Max Holloway's his whole career has been in the UFC and he's been
Yeah.
doing it for just so long since he was like super young. So he has a lot. So true or false? Volk's 11 fight win streak is the longest in UFC featherweight history. True or false?
So the one he was on before he lost to Ilya.
Hmm. His 11 fight win streak is the longest win streak in UFC featherweight history. True or false?
I think that's true.
It is not. It's close, but
Ooh.
the longest win streak in featherweight history belongs to the Hawaiian legend, the Waianae warrior, Max Blast Holloway, at 13 wins. He was on a
Ah.
13 win streak uh, before losing to Conor McGregor.
Oh,
Who
okay.
was the Who was the first ever UFC featherweight champion? I
Aldo.
feel like this might be. Yeah, I was about to say this is gonna be a
Yeah.
layup for you because that's like your guy. Jose Aldo was your
Yeah.
guy. I was about to
I
say
had to
this is
take a
gonna be
second
a
just to remember because like the one that's older is 55. They used to have
mhm,
55 and then they took 55 away and then they brought 55 back.
mhm. Yeah, I was like, this one might be the layup to be like, huh.
Yeah.
Who has the most submissions at featherweight? Hint that this person is no longer at featherweight.
Is it Charles?
Yeah, the legendary Super Saiyan Charles Oliveira.
Isn't that
He has the
crazy?
most. Yeah, right.
I mean, it's
Insane work.
he like stalled out like around I think the highest he was ever ranked at featherweight was like somewhere around like 7 to 10, like somewhere around there, right?
Somewhere, somewhere
Yeah.
around there.
And
The
he has the most in the history of the division.
Yep, and the most at in the lightweight too. So that's
Yeah.
even wilder. So he's just that just shows you how legendary the legendary Super Saiyan is. There's a reason why they call him the legendary Super Saiyan. They put the legendary behind the Super Saiyan. He's not just a regular run of the mill Super Saiyan. He's not a great value Super Saiyan. This is Erewhon Super Saiyan. This is that Whole Foods, that premium, that's that legendary Super Saiyan right there. It's Super Saiyan 1 right there. That's a Super Saiyan 4 Super Saiyan, you know what I mean? The most legendary of Super Saiyan. So, who won the inaugural women's featherweight championship? Now women's featherweight doesn't exist anymore. But who won the inaugural championship before it was that division was uh, shuttered, closed down?
Was that the one where they did it off of the Ultimate Fighter? That was the first champion.
I don't think so.
Okay, because I'm gonna say, is the name obscure?
I think to most casual fans, it will be. Like, I'm not, when I mean casual fans, I mean like to most fans who recently joined, who most recent new, like for most fans, for all the fans that joined during 2020,
Uh huh.
I think this name will be fairly, if not fairly obscure, if not totally obscure. But I think for fans who started watching around the time that like we started watching,
Hmm.
it's somewhere in the middle. Like
Okay.
it's one of the names that's like when you think back, you'd be like, oh, that is a that was a time like that is a throwback to a certain time period. Um,
Okay. Because
but people
I
won't.
have two names, and one's a super deep cut, but I think she might have been the first 35 champion instead. Uh, so I'm gonna
The
go.
name is a deep cut. I will let you know. The name is a deep cut.
I know, but the one I'm thinking is super deep.
Uh huh.
So I'll say the 45 one that I think it is, and then I'll let you know what I was thinking. Who I think is the first 35. So
Go ahead.
was the first 45 Jermaine Durandamy?
Yeah, actually, you nailed it on the head. Like that is, it was Drain Durandamy was the inaugural featherweight women's featherweight champion.
Okay. Here's the other super deep cut, which I'm 99.9% sure is true. The first women's 135-pound champion was Nico Montano.
Yeah, that is another super deep cut.
Yeah, that's what I was
that
thinking because
most
I was like, oh, they did it off the Ultimate Fighter, and but that was 35. 45 was its own thing.
Yeah, like that is a throwback name right there. Yeah, I feel that like that's one of those names you don't really like unless you were watching during that
Yeah,
time period. That is a name. I feel like that's a bonus question at a trivia competition to be like, if you playing trivia with somebody, they always hit you. You playing trivia somewhere and they hit you with the bonus question that's like super uh a very niche question. Like, hey, this that oh yeah, he got a bonus hard question. Who was this?
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that both of those are throwbacks, but definitely the that one, yeah. And so the next one, who did Max Holloway beat to win the interim featherweight title back in 2016?
Hmm.
I give you a hint. He was on the Wheaties box. I don't know if that gives it all away. I don't know if that gives away completely, but I could have chosen.
Anthony Showtime Pettis.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that gave it all the way, gave away completely out because I didn't want to say, hey, the dude ran off the cage like a and like kung fu, like in the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon type movie. You know what I
Well,
mean? But
either of those hints, I would have got it, but I don't know. For other people, especially like more recent fans, I don't think that they would know that reference. But like you say, for us, how long we've been watching, we know
yeah, that's
both the
fair.
Wheaties box and the run off the cage one.
One is still one of the wildest finishes ever. But yeah, because I was like, oh, let me try to. I'm gonna try to do a, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Give the hint, the lifeline, just because I was like, 2016 was a long time ago, and it was like, I was like, let me try to help out a little bit. let's see, with I was trying to help out a little bit without giving it all the way. Let's see, but yeah, that was a proper shout. Who was the first person to defeat Max Holloway in the UFC?
I think it was Conor McGregor.
Yeah, and I just realized we mentioned that like four
Yeah.
questions ago by accident. Didn't even realize that. Here's a Nico Montoya like type supercut kind of question. Which Iowa-based featherweight is making a comeback next month, but will be fighting at lightweight in his return to the UFC?
Okay, so I know this because I listened to the interview he did with Ariel Helwani. It's Jeremy
Oh,
Stevens.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the chances? Yeah, because I was thinking this is gonna be the question, the stump question.
No, I was struggling harder on the Pettis question before you gave the hint. I was like, 2016, who would have been like top of the division? Aldo would have been out, but who was like hanging around in the top five?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I really thought like, oh, this is gonna be potentially the bonus hard question at the trivia night. Okay, and then who won the Latin American version? Who won the Ultimate Fighter Latin America in 2014?
Ooh, 2014. Was it Kane?
No,
No.
it came. So the one that they did in Latin America.
Okay. Just the Ultimate Fighter. It's one they did in Latin America, 2014. Do you know who the coaches were?
Let me look it up real quick
Yeah, I don't want to Google it because it might
because
spoil it.
it is fairly late and my brain's not working. Which
2014 Ultimate Fighter, Latin America.
the two coaches actually, yeah, the two coaches were for was Cain Velasquez and Fabricio Verdum. So when you said Cain Velasquez,
Ooh.
he wasn't fighting, but he was the coach.
Okay, so it's 2014. It's Kane versus Verdum, so I would think that they're doing heavyweights that season.
I I
Heavyweight.
I.
Ooh, is it not?
I'm gonna save you that, save you the mental uh, crank up
Hmm.
the light bulb. I'm a slowly unplug the light, the plug on that light bulb on that lamp, just so you do not steer you in the wrong direction. It's not
Okay.
heavyweights. It's one of the lighter weights. I will tell you that.
Okay, so it's one of the lighter weights. And I'm guessing that this person is significant because I don't think
Mhm.
they'd be good trivia if they were.
Yeah,
So who?
it is a significant person because it's not a obscure as another it's not a like an obscure name like, oh yeah, the one dude from that one season who happened to be there when Rampage threw the elbow through the wall.
Okay. Is it Yair Rodriguez?
Hey, that is correct. You are that is the answer actually. Yeah,
It's funny. I don't remember a lot of that season for some reason.
but you nailed it.
Yeah. Well, because I was thinking like, okay, well, it's Kane versus Verdum. You probably got like a lot of Mexican fighters on there, and then some like probably more Brazilian slash South American on the other team. So I was like, okay, who could have like entered around 2014? And you said lighter weight, and I was like, okay, like who would be like 30 something now? And that's how I ended up there. But at the time, like 2014 feels so long ago that it didn't seem insane in my mind when I just blurted out Kane.
No, yeah, it doesn't feel that long ago, but yeah, 2014 was a minute ago.
Yeah, it was 11 years ago. So I was like,
But
okay,
it
like
doesn't
think
feel
about
that way. But yeah, it does. It
2014
it is
UFC
technically.
Ultimate Fighter, and I was like, that was the first one off top. I was like, Kane, like, but that didn't even really make that much sense. He was already champ.
And since you had mentioned Verdum, now with another Brazilian who's making waves, Diego Lopez, who future and speaking of Diego Lopez and speaking of Yair Rodriguez, a future probably that rivalry is gonna be insane if they do fight each other because
Mhm.
they're probably gonna need security
I don't get why they're
because
so like again. I didn't watch the press conference. I don't understand what they're beefing about. Doesn't like Diego Lopez rep Brazil and Mexico, and he works and like lives, I'm assuming, in Mexico?
that is true. I will, in the essence of time, since we're getting close to 2 hours,
Oh yeah.
I will like we'll hold that for another time, and I may
Okay.
just like tell you
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah. We'll have a breakdown later.
Yeah, the Volk versus Diego Lopez, the main event. Who do you got? What is who do you think will get the and new?
Yeah. So this one's super tough for me because normally when you have a champion like Volk and he gets knocked off, usually that's it. Like if the other guy leaves the division or retires or whatever, usually they don't come back for a second reign. It's usually you have your one thing, like you live it up in the moment, your kind of time in the sun, and then someone else comes along and knocks you off your perch, and then you never really get it back. But I don't know, man. Like Volk's got this thing about him that just kind of makes you believe. Like he had no business when he first started the sport. Anyone thinking, when he first got in the UFC, no one was thinking, "Oh, this guy's going to be the champ." Until he showed up one day and he was like, and oh, this guy's not going to beat Aldo, and then he did, and oh, well, he beat Aldo, but this is the end of the line. Like, look at Max Holloway. Like the best is blessed. The blessed express. The blessed express was in full like locomotion, and he like stood like Superman in front of the train and like just stopped it cold. And it was like boom, and even you know, three full fights, and Volk came out on top all times, even though they were super close, like obviously. But Max is a certified, bona fide, absolute UFC legend who is going to be a surefire Hall of Famer, one of the
First
best to ever
round.
do it in the UFC. Like, period.
He's not just a UFC legend; he an MMA legend.
Yeah, I mean, dude's for sure one of the best we've ever seen, an absolute legend, and to on three times in that guy's prime to stand up to him and have the judges say you won the fight. I mean, that's crazy. So to then go on and to the point where we're going, okay, well, there's no test really left for you in the division because the whole reason we did the Josh Emmett Yair Rodriguez deal was like, okay, well, there's no one who should really fight Volk, but somebody's got to fight Volk. So let's match these two dudes up who are on win streaks, and we'll see who gets to fight Volk for it. And then you run it, and everybody says, "Oh, Volk's gonna beat Yair," and he did. And he goes up against Islam, who people thought was this like unbeatable destroyer who could just grapple everybody, and he got razor close to beating Islam. And then obviously, like the second one didn't work out, and the knockout, and then the comes back down for the Taporia, and we still don't know how good Taporia is. Like we don't know how high his ceiling is because he just keeps passing all the tests. So it it's weird with Volk because you can't really dock him the Islam one. Like that could happen to anybody. And then the Taporia one, we don't know how good Taporia is. Like he might be this absolute freak who people say has the best boxing in the UFC, has the best footwork in the UFC. Like so we don't know exactly how big of a mountain that was. And also how fast he came back and all that stuff. And so there's a lot of things with Volk. And at 36 years old, you could say, oh, well, the last two losses show it. It's all behind him now. He doesn't have a chin. I just don't think that's true. I think he's still. I don't think he's still like the Holloway Volk. Because I think, two losses like that will get anybody's head down a little bit. But to me, the skills are still there. The body's still willing. I think the main determining factor will be Diego Lopez has never seen 5 rounds. And I think it's going to be close, but I think Volk gets the decision in a 3-2, maybe a 4-1 over the new challenger who's coming up to these big heights real fast. And I think he's not quite ready for the mountaintop quite yet. So Volk by decision is what I got. How about you?
Like when you said Volk make you want to believe, right?
Mm.
I think the moment where I was like, oh, I'm a fan of Volk again. I said these is when he beat Max Holloway three
Mm.
times, and I
Yep.
was sick 3 times. Because anyone that knows me knows my favorite fighter is Max Holloway. Is Max the Blessed Express Holloway, the BMF, the Blessed Man Forever, the Waianae Warrior, the Hawaiian Legend? Because and we're talking about a prime Max Holloway. Like this is Max Holloway that KO'd, that knocked out a prime Jose Aldo twice, not once, twice. And then on top of that, former featherweight champion, had 3 title defenses, the most finishes in featherweight history, the most KOs in featherweight history, the longest win streak in the featherweight division, the most strikes thrown in the featherweight division, like, and did it all with style points, right? And like, bro, like I was thinking like, oh man, I've been a fan of Max Holloway since high school. I was like, oh man, they're like boom, boom. When they originally fought, I was like, oh, Max Holloway all the way. Like, what are we talking about? Like again, like anyone knows me knows my favorite fighter, favorite male fighter is Max Holloway. My favorite female fighter is the queen herself, Alexa Grasso. If those two are fighting, I'm picking them regardless on who they're fighting against. Max Holloway could literally going against put insert a person's name, and I'm gonna pick him. Even if it was like, oh, they're gonna Max is gonna fight Volk a fourth time. even though statistics say Volk would win because they were like, hey, fought 3 times, Max has lost 3 times, most people would go Volk. I would still be like Max Holloway all the way by finish. He's gonna make it happen either by fits, but because or decision, right? But I think that like when I saw that happen, and then they ran it back a second time, ran it back a third time, and I said, "Ha, man, this dude's really good. Like he's really freaking good to beat a peak Max Holloway 3 times in a row." That's what made me be like, I had the Yoel Romero moment. You know, when Yoel Romero was taking off the glass and he was like, "When you believe, anything is possible."
Mm.
Like still one of the best like motivational like sound bites that has ever came out of the UFC, maybe ever. It's like when you see you all remember come up because that video be making you feel like, you know what? Yeah, that is true, Yoel. When you do believe anything is possible. You know what? I'm gonna make some happen. Today, right? But that was the moment where I was like, oh, this dude is like the first time he beat Max Holloway. I was like, oh, this dude is he's he's definitely gonna be he's special. Like, oh, this dude's dope. And for him to go on, like you said, not only beat Max Holloway 3 times, he beat Jose Aldo. He's beaten Brian Ortega in a crazy fight where Brian Ortega looked like he had the win locked up. Because remember when he had him in that like uh in the guillotine, but from the top position, and that
Mm.
guillotine was tight. Because to get stuck in a top guillotine is already crazy work. And his head was turning red, and his head looked like a cherry tomato. And a lot of people thought it was over, and I was just like, "Whoa, that looks tight." And it's he showed he showed Volk showed he got that dog in him, had that championship like toughness, and was like, "Nah, I'm a what's the I'm a flex and bust out of here." The Yair Rodriguez fight, the Korean Zombie fight, like I would will 10 toes down say this every day, any day, and I don't care who. And people can argue with it if they want to. Volkanovski is the greatest featherweight of all time. If you're looking at the number one guys, I don't know who, and that's saying a lot coming from me because I will say because I would have like me personally, I want to put Max Holloway first, and I put him two because I feel like if you beat Max Holloway, a prime Max Holloway 3 times, and you beat all the people Volkanovski has beaten, and had the win streak Volk has was on, 5 title defenses, 11 fight win streak, and you're being none but like just dogs, you got to give it up for him. You know what I mean? Beat Holloway 3 times, you beat a Jose Aldo, you beat Brian Ortega, you beat Yair Rodriguez, you beat Chan Sung Jung. Like you're just stacking up the list of the names, right? He is very good striking, very good grappling, very good jiu-jitsu. Like he is all around. There's not a whole lot of weak spots. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of downsides. He's good at pretty much everything. And in order to beat Volk, you gotta be 100% tuned in and locked in. You have to bring your A+ game, right? And I do think he did come back a little too early for the rematch against Islam and then the rematch against Taporia. I think that if the Volk who fought Chancellor Young or Taporia or even Holloway shows up, it's hard to choose. It's hard to not choose Volkanovski, right?
Mm.
And it would be phenomenal because it's never been done where a person has lost twice and then and bounce back to win a title shot in their return. You don't lose. It's never been done where someone's lost a title shot twice in a row and then bounce back and win the title the third time. So he has a chance to make history, right?
Mm.
And make something happen. Where I think that so it makes it hard to not choose him, but I will say Diego Lopez is excitement personified in a fighter. He's coming out there full guns blazing. If it's in a car, he's in an Audi RXA and he's hitting it. He's hitting the as fast as this car will go, 0 to 100, all gas, no brakes. Because Diego Lopez, think about it. 2 years ago, Diego Lopez wasn't even in the UFC, and now he's in a title shot with the greatest featherweight of all time, with a chance to make to change his life forever,
Well, I mean,
and to
he's he's such an exciting guy that
exactly,
he's managed to get to a title fight before. So on Contender Series, he lost his fight against Brito, and then in his UFC debut, he lost to Evloev, and he's got to a title shot before Evloev did because he's so exciting and has like captured the energy and the favor of the crowd.
yeah. And hey, got the cool mullet going on. This is in the yeah. The and I think that when he comes out there, he's going out there to finish. He's going out there to put on
Mm.
a show. He's going out there put on an exciting fight and to like kick butt and take names, right? He's taken on a bunch of. He's taken on the short notice fights, like the what was it? The fight with I believe it was Dan Ige, right? Where he took on like a few days notice to move up,
Yeah.
and then but yeah, I think that Diego Lopez has has the knockout power slash the submission ability to finish Volkanovski. I think that in the rounds, I know a lot of people are saying that like he's like a glass cannon, potentially a glass cannon where he'll just like he'll have the energy first 2 rounds and then like 3, 4, 5 he's gonna melt wherever or he could have blow his load first 2 rounds and then that's where Volk would take over. But Diego Lopez has decision wins. It's not like, oh yeah, like he only can survive in the first 2 rounds. No, like he has decision wins. It's just go for the finish. I think that the first 2 rounds, in my opinion, I think favor Diego Lopez just because of the pace he brings
Mm.
and the tenacity, the speed, the agility, the power that like he brings into the first few rounds. I think as we get into the third and fourth, fifth rounds, I think that you'll start to see that championship experience from Volkanovski kind of come into play because I think that a lot of times you'll see. I feel like when there is a 5 round fight, you'll see sometimes fighters or people will be like, "Oh, I need to like add two, right?" And be like, "Oh," or you'll see situations where people need to add, feel like they like, "Oh yeah, okay." 5 to 25 minutes. Oh, I gotta be able to go add this or train more, or do that, or do more prep for this fight. I think it's really just managing what you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Dean Thomas has said it. It's just like, hey, you gotta. It's managing the fight, managing what you already do, and then extending that for 5 rounds, rather than being like, oh, I was doing 10 minutes of cardio, now do you feel like I need to do 20 minutes of cardio? Just uh, managing the gas tank,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that. So I think that he has the chance. I think, in my opinion, I think this is 50-50, a 50-50 split, or if not, like 60-40. I think that I know that's a bit crazy to say because you have like the greatest featherweight of all time against a guy who is fairly new to the division, but I think he has the potential to be a long-standing champion. I think that the he'll have Alexa Grasso in his corner during the fight, from what I understand, and she knows all about that championship experience, that championship mentality, and to go into a fight as the like going against a fight against the person who's considered the best in their division. When Alexa Grasso went against Valentina, Alexa Grasso went against the second greatest female fighter of all time, arguably the number one pound for pound female fighter in the world, and she knows what Diego's about to go into is being, hey, the new guy, like not essentially new guy on the block, but being the contender who's going against such a high level of opposition
Mm-hmm.
can help with that and be like, hey, this is what it's going to take. This is what it is, da 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 da. And then training at Team Lobo, I think that you're gonna get that experience from, like, you already got the striking, but working on the grappling, because Volk's gonna go for takedowns. I feel like at some point, so working on
Mm-hmm.
that, I think that now I will say, you already know, I'm a Team Lobo guy. I will through and through, right? I will put that out there. Like anybody, I feel like I've put in such goodwill with me over the like what? How long is 2016 been?
9 years.
Let's see, 9 years. Over the last 9 years, with Alexa Grasso, first with Alexa Grasso, then Lupe Godinez, then now Diego Lopez, bro. They put out. They have such like a dope gym, like where they putting out like, well, boom, Alexa Grasso, first ever woman from Mexico to win the championship. Lupe Godinez, first woman to win, like have 4 fights in a calendar year and win all 4 of those fights. Diego Lopez, dude, showing up, and in 2 years he's in a championship fight with the greatest featherweight of all time. They're doing phenomenal things at that gym, and there's a lot of phenomenal fighters there. So I think this is his time. This is his moment. This is his Eminem 8 Mile moment. I think it is. So I think he goes out there, seizes the moment. I think if not if, but I think if Diego Lopez, I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say Diego Lopez, and I'm gonna go, Team Lobo all the way. Hey, like I said, when Alexa Grasso was going against Valentina, I've been telling people since 2016, 2017 that Alexa Grasso was gonna become the women's flyweight champion, and no one was trying to hear. I was like, bro, y'all don't see the vision. And when she finally got the belt, I said, hey, before she got the belt, when she got the fight, I said, Alexa Grasso is going to finish Valentina Shevchenko. She's going to win by finish. And people thought I was crazy. And I said, nah, this is vision. Y'all ain't seeing the vision. Y'all ain't seeing the big picture. I said, hey, Mystic Malik out here with the picks. And I will go out there and I will say Diego Lopez gets the finish. I'm gonna say maybe second round. I don't know. I'm not too confident on the round, but I feel like he gets the finish, right?
I feel like if he's going to win, that is going to be the
It's gonna be in
path.
the first two rounds, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too. And but it's one of those tough situations because I like both fighters. I'm
Mhm.
a fan of both fighters.
Yeah.
And it's one of those situations you want to see both guys win. You want to see both guys win, or you don't want to see neither guy lose, but you know that can't happen. Like someone's gonna win and someone's gonna lose. It's gonna be the best day ever. Slash one of the a great moment for the person who wins. Right? Hey,
Yeah.
if you're Diego Lopez, hey man, you won your first belt. You became a champion. Hurrah, hurrah! There's gonna be a celebration, right? And your life has changed forever. If you're Volkanovski, oh man, you did something that no one has ever done in UFC history. Lose, have a like a long running title run, have two back to back losses in title shots, and then bounce back by winning your title back, which is
Yeah.
insane work. And that will be a a celebration as well. But in both sides, someone's gonna lose. So hopefully, I'm hoping for a good fight. But I say Diego Lopez.
Well,
That's
I
who I'm
think
picking.
either way, we all win as fans because, like you say,
Exactly.
two great guys, easy to root for, and kind of reflected in the drama-free main event that we got.
Yeah. All right. It's been a long one, but that's for the 1 year special. For the good times. Thank you all for those watching. I appreciate y'all. Uh, Tune in next week. We're gonna be reviewing the card from this week. Like, subscribe, let people know. Hope you enjoy the show. We had a good time listening. We had a good time recording. This has been another episode of conflict management. See y'all later.